cost of covers. Anyway, we've got some calls, and I'm sure people are like, hey, what about calls? So let's take a look at what we've got going on here, and let's go with number one who bounced around a bit. So this is Sam in the Bahamas. You want to know what a world without religion would look like to us, and you are on with Tracie and Phil. Hello?
Hello, Tracie and Phil. How are you?
Hey, good.
Doing well. How are you?
Did I get your question right? Yeah.
Yeah, you got it right. My question here is that, I'm a believer, and throughout the years, atheism is growing throughout the years. Am I right?
There's more what they call nuns, right? People that are unaffiliated from religion, but it's hard to know if they are doing the spiritual but not religious thing or if they're actually deconverting to atheism. But yeah, I think it's probably a fair bet that there's at least some percentage of those that are atheists, which, assuming that atheists aren't converting at a higher rate, would make the population of atheists larger, at least in the United States.
So, but my question I've been asking ever since I was converted is that how you think the world would be purely without religion, just pure atheism? Like, how you think human society would form? Would it be the same as it is today, or would it just be like advanced?
I think we can look at secular cultures, right? So there have been some secular regimes that were pretty horrendous. And there have been some secular countries that are, highly secular today that are really nice places to live with great social metrics. Yeah. So for me, it kind of depends on what else is going on, right? So if you have like people that have an understanding of a positive view of humanity and a positive view of each other, and who aren't preaching that we're all, depraved and untrustworthy, or that, anything that competes with the state should be locked up or killed, I think that you probably are going to have a pretty good shot at having a positive secular culture. But I don't know that it's a guarantee. A lot of it just depends on the people that you're dealing with and what other situations are happening. That's my, my hypothetical thinking. What about you, Phil?
I would think somewhere along the same lines. It's when you look at religion and some of the effects that it can have, both positive and negative, I can see like, okay, well, there may be less people that feel that they have a low self-worth and they need to get that satisfaction from a deity, or that they were born incorrectly because whoever they are, however they identify, contradicts with the religion that they were taught. And so I can see some people not being as depressed, at least in that respect, but that doesn't mean that there may be other things in their life that get them down or something. So it's hard to put a finger on that. I would love for all of the different buildings that we have for churches to be able to be full-on community centers that can house people, stuff like that. I have those dreams on that side, but it's hard to gauge what society would be like if everyone all together said, okay, no one believes this is it all together. What would happen to...
On me, it had kind of just on me personally as an individual, it had a positive impact. But like I say, I'm not going to deny that there were some, regimes that were not friendly to religion that have had, some pretty horrific histories.
Sure.
So there's no guarantee that, you take away religious influence, it's going to be rainbows and roses, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, though, it allowed me to lead a more self-directed life. Mm-hmm. It made me reassess, like, what do I think is important and what do I value and what seems, what does it mean to be a good person and what does it mean to actually engage with my society and how do I do that as a human being? And so I had to go in and kind of reassess everything and then come at it from a situation of saying, now that I've kind of looked at my life and examined it in a closer way, whereas before in the religion I was in, it was very authoritarian and very conservative. And so it was very much, here's what it says and here's what you have to do. And whether you agree with it or not, this is what you need to do and you need to accept and you need to know that this is the right thing to do even if you think it's wrong. And so my religion that I was raised in wasn't that great, right? So coming out of it was like a good thing for me. But I understand that different people have a different religious experience, with their upbringing and with that context. So I don't want to broad brush it that way. But I don't think that I think there's so many other influences in society that the only thing that bothers me, about what we're doing, well, not to say the only thing, but I guess the main concern I have with regard to religion are religions like the one I was raised in that are kind of dictating to people what they should do, as opposed to the people thinking that their religion sort of bolsters their personal values. My religion was like, you don't have personal values. God tells you what to do and you do it. And so when the more self-directed people are, whether they're in a church or not, I think in general, that's a better thing because I do have a lot of belief that people are social species and that makes us want to interact positively and cooperatively.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I've definitely, I could talk about my personal life, but like you said, I can't necessarily say that that's going to affect everyone the same. For me, it was very positive, and kind of reassessing my life and figuring out what I want to do with my life and the effect that I want to have on others. That's not the same kind of conversation that I had before, even though it was kind of built into the religion because it was, God will reveal, what he wants you to do. And that kind of coincided with what you kind of wanted to do. But, regardless, it really made me kind of take a step back and realize that we do have this precious time that is here on the earth. And that changed my outlook of how I move forward treating people, how my volunteerism is affected. And, I always did, but it ramped up so much more after kind of coming to that realization because you have this short time. And
if you don't do it, there's no divine hand that's going to come and help the person.
Right.
That's your belief, right? For somebody that doesn't believe in a God, it's like there's not
that it's going to be
God
better.
that's going to take care of them if I just pray enough. That person that I didn't see today, that didn't come out, that if you don't take steps to help them, there's no help coming.
Right. They may not get that help, and that change may not happen in their life without us actually doing something about it. And so it was quite an eye-opening experience for me, but it affects everyone differently, so it's hard to say how everyone would feel.
It's not really an answer. It's not like we can say, hey, here's this perfect prediction of what would happen. And I think, like I say, globally, there's been a few different experiments, and some turned out super well, and some didn't turn out well. So I think that it's about other influences on what happens when religion is pulled out of that mix. I would never, just to be clear, I would never force it out of the mix because I think that's a really bad idea. I don't think it's even possible to do that. And if people don't want to leave religion on their own, then I would be totally against trying to set up a government where some governments are oppressive to, some governments promote a religion or are oppressive to every other religion, and some governments haven't allowed religion at all. And so when I look at it in that capacity, I would never support a thing like that because I just think that always turns out badly. Is that information at all, useful to you? I don't know.
That's useful information. It's just like, wow, you just give me a new perspective of the topic. So what you're basically saying is that the world would be basically the same with or without religion?
I think that in the end, people wouldn't, if they didn't have religion, they would still roll towards certain values, right? And what would fill that void, I don't know.
Yeah, but the conversations might change.
I would do everything I could to fill the void with positive things. Like I would definitely be wanting to push for cooperative societies and, tolerant societies. And I would do everything I could to try and not produce an intolerant political dictatorial regime. Like I wouldn't want something like that. But I don't know if there would be sufficient people to desire such a thing that would be the outcome. I would hope that, the people of the world who have more humanitarian views would ultimately win out if there was like an idea of a world without religion, a world without, God belief. But I can't say that that's a guarantee. I would just say that I would do everything I could to make that the reality.
Yeah, I would hope it would change the way that people thought about how they reached their decisions. So if people didn't have this framework to arrive at the fact that, gay people, they shouldn't be that way, they shouldn't be doing that, that's a sin against God, versus okay, well, why is that a bad thing? Do I actually have a reason to say that that's a bad thing? And so what I would really hope is that, critical thinking and, logic and reason would come back into the forefront. So when people are making decisions, that they're doing it more than just saying, oh, well, this is what my God commanded me to do, or this is what my God told me was correct, versus, you know what, I've evaluated the situation, I've come to this conclusion based on the people involved, and this is how my decision would affect other people. Therefore, I'm not going to do this because it negatively harms.
But then there's always that chance that somebody steps up and says, you're going to do what I say, and you're going to follow this, particular form of government that is going to tell you what to do and how to live your life. Because there are secular, secular institutions that can do that, can be that authoritarian, right? I tend to think that for me, the thing that always seems to make it go wrong is when it goes conservative authoritarian, right? When you start heading down an authoritarian path, whether it's a government, whether it's a religion, that's always the wrong direction to go for overall human happiness and fulfillment, right? People are not generally happy when somebody else is directing their lives, right? When you get to form your own identity, that's, I think, the optimal thing for. In fact, I'm doing some reading right now, and there's a lot of pathologies involved with people being told how to direct their lives. When you're the less self-directed your life is, the higher pathologies start to exist in mental health. So authoritarianism is actually not healthy, right? Not mentally healthy. So I wouldn't want that, and I would hope, I don't think most people would want that, but whether or not it could turn into something like that. Or,
something that you can't be predicted, so to speak. It's just
I'm not saying that there's no other influences that can make bad outcomes for people except religion. I would never make that claim.
But I think we lost him, actually.
Oh, no, we're talking to nobody here. Next.